Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana. Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana. Yamunadira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayom Vishubhat Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Sata Srimad Tisvangdes Esi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishubhat Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Sata Srimad Tisvangdes Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai. Sri Sri Gaunitai Ki Jai. Sri Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glory is to the Samadivatis. All glory is to the Samadivatis. All glory is to the Samadivatis. All glory is to Sri Guru Sri Gauranga. All glory is to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastagutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadini Nirvesesha Sunyavadi Pastyata Vedatarini Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Today we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, first skanda, 10th chapter, sloka number 5. Huh? 5. Sri Sri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Sri Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki jai. Gatva Udichim Disam Raja Rudranuchara Sevitam Dadashta Himavat Dronyam Purim Guhyaka Sankulam Gatvodichim Disamraja Rudranuchara Sevitam Dadashta Himavadronyam Purim Guhyaka Sankulam Gadvodichim Disamraja Rudranuchara Sevitam Dadashta Himavadronyam Purim Guhyaka Sankulam Gadvodichim Disamraja Rudranuchara Sevitam Dadashta Himavadronyam Purim Guhyaka Sankulam. Gatva, going, Udichim, northern, Disam, direction, Raja, King Dhruva, Rudranuchara, by followers of Rudra, Lord Shiva, Sevitam, inhabited, Dadasha, so, Himavat, Himalayan, Dronyam, in a valley, Purim, a city, Guhyaka, ghostly persons, Sankulam, full of. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj went to the northern direction of the Himalayan range. In a valley, he saw a city full of ghostly persons who were followers of Lord Shiva. Please repeat. Dhruva Maharaj went to the northern direction of the Himalayan range. In a valley, he saw a city full of ghostly persons who were followers of Lord Shiva. Purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, it is stated that the yakshas are more or less devotees of Lord Shiva. By this indication, the Yakshas may be taken to be the Himalayan tribes like the Tibetans. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. So this is a new chapter entitled Dhruva Maharaj Fight with the Yakshas. Why Dhruva Maharaj started to go to the Yakshas and fight against them? Because he came to know that his brother Uttama had been killed by a Yaksha. So he became very upset. His brother had gone on a hunting excursion on the northern direction, and he had come to the place in the Himalayan northern side of Himalaya. That was the news that came to Dhruva Maharaj. Uttama was the younger brother, was not yet married, and certainly Dhruva Maharaj was very affectionate towards his younger brother. Maybe in the future also he could become the next king after Dhruva. But now the news came that he was killed. So Dhruva Maharaj became very angry, and he wanted to have a meeting with these yakshas, and certainly in mind he had started to think about killing the yakshas who had been guilty of this great offense. So in this way, the description is given here that Dhruva Maharaj went towards the northern direction of the Himalaya, and at one point he saw a valley full of ghostly persons who are followers of Lord Shiva. These ghostly persons have been described in various manners. Different words have been used. They have been called yakshas, they have been called punyajana, and they have been called here guhyaka, and in the next sloka they were called Upadeva. So these different words are used. Now regarding the word Upadeva, Upadeva means like semi. We are talking about gods or demigods. Upadeva, we could translate it as semi-gods. Semi means smaller than demi, means semi. So according to Vedic literature, there are three types of demigods. You have the demigods themselves, they are devas. Then another type is Ganadeva. Ganadeva refers to those devas who are going in group, just like you have the 12 Adityas. You can remember 12 Adityas because in the Krishna Lila, the 12 Adityas, Dwadasa Aditya, they took a role in the Krishna Lila after Lord Krishna chastised the Kaliya and was full of water and it was little cold. So the Dwadasa Aditya came and they dried up the body of Lord Krishna and made him very warm. So Dwadasa Aditya Tila is there in Vrindavan, where Sanatana Goswami built the Madan Mohan temple. So they are called Ganadeva. Then you have another type of Ganadeva, just like you have these 49 Maruts, 7 multiplied by 7, 49 Maruts. Then you have also others, just forgot. So many different groups are there of these Ganadevas. So that is another type. And the third type is Upadeva. So Deva, Ganadeva, Upadeva. They are separate entities. They have their own realm, their own kingdom and planets, and they have their own duties or functions in the maintenance of the universe. So among these Upadevas, you have the Yakshas, Guhyakas, and Rakshasas, and they are called different names, and they live in different places, but they are all together, they are servants of Kubera and Lord Shiva. Kubera and Lord Shiva are together because they are living in the same area, and they have the same type of followers, such as these Yakshas, Rakshasas, and others. They are followers of Lord Shiva and Kubera. Kubera is the brother of Ravana. So his origin is also somewhat Asuric. And he was the king of Sri Lanka. And then his brother Ravana became very envious. What my brother is doing in Sri Lanka, I should be the king of Sri Lanka, not Kubera. So with a big army, he attacked Sri Lanka and he defeated Kubera. So Kubera had to take refuge. He went different places. Finally, he went up to the Himalayas and he gathered his entourage, friends, followers there in the Himalayas, and he established the city of Alakkapuri that became the capital city of Kubera. So it became very glorious, but somewhat the followers of Kubera are little better not to approach them too closely, because sometimes they may get upset and they may attack you if you come too closely. If again you seem to take over their kingdom, then certainly they will attack you like anything. So better to keep them at a distance, not to mix with them, not to go and see them. It's not necessary. But here in this case, Dhruva had to go there because he wanted to take revenge against some of the Yakshas who were responsible for the death of his brother. So he had to meet these Yakshas and Rakshasas. And that was not a happy episode in the life of Dhruva, as going to be seen in the later slokas and chapter. So here Prabhupada mentions that by this indication, or another meaning, another way of describing these Rakshasas and Guhyakas, they are Punyajana. So how they are Punyajana? If they are Rakshasas, they are meat eaters, as will be described also in the next chapter. They are addicted to all types of tamasic habits, eating flesh, raw flesh, and blood. So they don't have very good habit like the Aryans, Brahmins, and no, they have a different type. So they are not even considered as human beings, but they are described as Punyajana. How is it possible that a Rakshasa can be a Punyajana? But they live on a higher platform than human beings. No, you have in between heaven, Swarga, and this Brahma, this Bhu, Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha. So Bhuva, that means the intermediate region, there you will find these yakshas, rakshasas, gujakas. So they are higher than human beings. In this way, they can be called also punyajana. So even though they have some tamasic tendencies, just like rakshasas, but at the same time, they have performed punya and they have been elevated to a higher kingdom. And they have special powers that will be described in the next chapter. The power of the yakshas is something that we don't have. They have extraordinary powers. So here Srila Prabhupada mentions that these yakshas, they may be taken to be the Himalayan tribes like the Tibetans. Tibetans, sometimes Prabhupada also was telling, see these Kshatriyas who were severely defeated by Parasuram, and they were kicked out of the Indian subcontinent. They took refuge in the Western countries, in Europe, in Egypt, and similar countries in the West. So we are the descendants of these Kshatriyas, Lechas. They became Lechas afterwards, but they are actual descendants of these Kshatriyas kicked out by Parasuram. So here also there is some connection, as Prabhupada mentions, between these Yakshas and Tibetans. I remember that in the 1960s, there was a very famous book that was read in Europe and America. The book title was The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Nowadays, we don't hear much about that book. At that time, it became very famous, especially the younger generation. They became very much attracted by this type of civilization of the Tibetan group, because there was a description of mystic powers, extraordinary powers that were exhibited by the Tibetans from tradition. So the same tradition from the Yakshas came down in history through these Tibetan people. They also have some of these powers. Of course, now they don't exhibit anymore much of this. But at one time, they had some special power. For instance, I didn't read the book, but I remember that they had ability to fly from one mountain to another mountain like that. And many other types of powers. But now they have become somewhat poverty-stricken, especially because of the Chinese attack against Tibet. So they had to take refuge. Many of them took refuge in India. And gradually their culture is becoming less and less prominent. But I have a personal experience of meeting the Dalai Lama, the chief spiritual leader of the Tibetans in Madras. Because in 1980, we had a program there in Madras with Bhakti Swarup Swami. He gave some lecture on the topic of science and religion. And at that time, we thought of invited important chief guest. So we were wondering whom to invite. So we came to know that the Dalai Lama was in Madras. So immediately then we decided, let us invite the Tibetan leader. So I went to his place, and immediately there was no difficulty to speak to him and to invite him. He was very friendly, and he accepted very kindly our invitation. And he gave a lecture at that program with Bhakti Swarup Swami and others. So it was in this way. We had some experience of these Tibetan people and their leader. They are very kind. They are, of course, now they became Buddhists. So they are completely non-violent in practice and in philosophy. But at one time, the yakshas and guhyakas, they were somewhat different, and they were easily provoked, and they can retaliate and exercise their power. So Dhruva Maharaj, he had to experience this power of the guhyakas and rakshasas, yakshas in this way. That will be described later on. So, why should Dhruva Maharaj take so much trouble to have an encounter with the yakshas? Actually, Manu later on will tell him that why do you want to take revenge? Something happened, your brother was killed. One single yaksha is responsible for that. Why do you want to attack the entire yaksha community because of the misdeed of one single person? This is not proper. Dhruva Maharaj is certainly a devotee of the Lord, and he should not take revenge in that manner out of anger and envy. Anger and envy should not be exhibited, especially envy. Anger is sometimes compatible with devotional service. A devotee of the Lord may become angry. That is not against the principle of devotional service if the anger is properly applied. That's like, take the example of Hanuman. Now, Hanuman took the lead to attack Sri Lanka even before Lord Ramchandra. So he went first by jumping over the ocean, and in a great anger, his tail was set on fire, and he started to go all around Sri Lanka with great anger and devastating, putting the whole country into fire. So, anger exhibited by Hanuman at that time is good. It is favorable for his service to Lord Ramchandra. So it is counted, that can be counted as a limb of bhakti. In a special case, just like Hanuman, he can become angry and at the same time serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any offense, going against this Ravana and other Rakshasas. So otherwise, anger is to be subdued. And envy should not be exhibited. The devotees are not envious of anybody. That is one of the defects that is not found in a devotee. A devotee may become angry. Another example is if the Supreme Lord is blasphemed against, or if a Vaishnava is being blasphemed against, then if we come to know, we cannot remain peaceful. We have to be angry and chastise the blasphemer. Or if we are not in a position to chastise the blasphemer, then we should run away from the place. We should not hear. We should go away very far. We should not be in the company of such a blasphemer. So either we retaliate in anger or we get out of the place, but we cannot be indifferent. In the previous purport, also Srila Prabhupada was telling, it is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry. envious or overwhelmed by lamentation. So anger can be exhibited in this way. There are, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we should not criticize anybody. A devotee generally does not criticize anybody, does not find any fault against anyone, except in 3 cases. He can find fault, he can criticize if that criticism is favorable for the party who has been offended. If you criticize, if the party can accept the criticism, then that criticism can be accepted as favorable to devotional service. Another reason, you can criticize if those who are hearing, all the others who are hearing, they get benefit. It is a lesson. You see, this is like this, you should not be like this, so that is a good lesson. And those who are hearing this criticism, they are benefited, so it is acceptable in devotional service. And the third case is that if I myself, the person who criticized, he is benefited, therefore he will never do such a thing. So if he is benefited, then that is acceptable in devotional service. Otherwise, this type of quality as finding fault and being angry, being envious, especially being envious, should not be exhibited. That should be controlled. Even in extreme cases, if there is a case that this person he acts as my enemy, but even if I consider him as enemy, but I should not be envious against him. That should be the proper behavior of a devotee. He should not develop any type of envy. Even if he can be angry for the purpose of service, but he cannot be envious. Like Srila Prabhupada mentioned that sometimes there is competition between devotees. Prabhupada established this competition between the different ISKCON centers in book distribution. So if Los Angeles is number 1 in book distribution, then Chicago number 2. So there will be some type of a confrontation, some type of dispute. And the Chicago center may say, no, you have not distributed that much. No, you're not correct. Like this, they'll find so many faults. Some type of competition like this, and other centers also, then traveling parties are there. So competition in book distribution was very favorable for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Everybody belonging to any type of traveling party or ISKCON temple was endeavoring, every center, every group was endeavoring to increase the book distribution. That was a result of this competition. So Srila Prabhupada started that type of competition. But it was a competition without envy. So there is some limit. We can compete, but we should not develop any negative feeling. On the contrary, if suppose in book distribution, another small now Attapur is there, others, if they distribute more books than Hyderabad temple, what shall we think here? Oh, how is it possible? This Attapur is very insignificant temple, and how they are distributing so many books more than Hyderabad? No, this is not correct. This is nonsense. We are number 1 here. Why Attapur is showing so much? So, on the contrary, a devotee should be very glad when he is overcome, when he is defeated in devotion, in devotional activities. He should praise, oh, you are doing more than that. Oh, Very good, very good. Congratulations. So that should be the mood of a devotee. So even there is competition, but not in a negative manner. It should be always having a positive result without any negative feeling. Similarly, Prabhupada gave the example among the gopis also, like there are different groups of gopis at the highest level. So sometimes there's competition between one group and another. In the spiritual world also, these groups are there and they also may compete. But this competition is very pleasurable to Lord Krishna. And there is no envy. No envy. In the spiritual world, there is no question of envy. Everybody is praising others who are doing better. So that should be the mood of devotional service. This is the attitude that we have to adopt sometime in these cases. Whenever there is some type of competition, but we should not develop any negative feeling. We should see, oh, how you are doing so well. Just like on the, here this, sometimes Radharani is praising other gopis and they are putting them forward. She finds more pleasure, she is more happy when she is pushing another gopi towards Lord Krishna. That is her service. She feels that she is so happy in rendering service to another gopi in this manner. Go and meet Lord Krishna. He is there. You can just go and meet him. Like this, she is finding so much happiness in this manner. So Radharani is the emblem of pure devotional service in this manner. She is never have any negative feeling. Even in Radhakund, the famous story of a fox or jackal. A jackal is coming. Jackal is a very nasty animal. It is very dirty and it can be very dangerous also. It can attack anybody for no reason. But Radharani welcomed this jackal. Oh, you are coming to Radhakund. Very good. Please come. She made a welcome for this jackal. That is the pure mood of Srimati Radharani. She is accepting anyone in the field of devotional service. In this way, Lord Krishna is very pleased with such behavior. So here Dhruva Maharaj is somehow becoming affected, but as long as anger is dovetailed, as Prabhupada used to use that word. At the beginning, nobody could understand when Prabhupada used that word, dovetailing our emotions or our propensities, our activities in the service of Krishna. What is the meaning of dovetailing? The followers of Srila Prabhupada could not understand. So everything can be dovetailed in that manner. So Dhruva Maharaj is getting angry, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that a devotee can be angry or overwhelmed by lamentation. Sometimes he cannot remain like a stone, like the impersonalist. Their ideal behavior is like completely motionless, emotionless. That is the ideal for the Mayavadis, impersonalists. But the devotees are not like that. The devotees are dovetailing all their propensities in the service of the Lord. So anger can be applied in some cases. It doesn't have to be restrained artificially, but it should be applied in the service of the Lord. Similarly, lamentation, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was lamenting so much about this outcome this battle of Kurukshetra is going to take place, and Arjuna is lamenting that what is the need for such a battle when all my relatives and superiors and leaders, gurus are present in front of me. I don't want to fight. He is lamenting in that manner, and he is giving up his bow and arrow. I don't want to fight. That is Vishada, lamentation. So this lamentation also was useful because out of that, Lord Krishna gave the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. That why you are lamenting, we should not lament for anyone dead or alive in this way. And the first chapter, some commentators have given the title Vishada Yoga. We know Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. The Vishada Yoga is also another type of yoga. So if it can be used in a spiritual life, Vishada can be, in this way, can be used as a item, as a kind of yoga. But generally, that is also the Lord Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita is meant to remove that state of lamentation and make Arjuna angry against the opposite camp. Because without anger, you cannot fight. So Arjuna should change his emotion. He should change his mind from a state of lamentation to a state of, now I'm ready to fight. Karishye vachanam tava. I will, whatever you told me, you told me to fight, yes, I will fight. That is the surrender of Arjuna. So that is the ultimate conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And without anger, he cannot fight. So he has to develop a new type of emotion in that manner in order to become perfect in his devotional service. So these are the things that can be considered in this situation. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. When we describe Srila Prabhupada's relationships with the other branches of the Gaudiya Math,
Other branches of Gaudiya Math,
as competition or in what way we can best describe Prabhupada's relationship?
So Srila Prabhupada was well aware of the feelings that the other branches of Gaudiya Math had, especially some of the other sannyasis. He knew very well that some of them do not appreciate Srila Prabhupada's mission. They had no good feeling for what Prabhupada had done in the West to make so many Western disciples, bringing them to India and having programs in India and establishing different centers in India. So many of these sannyasis, they did not appreciate the activities of Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada neglected them. He did not retaliate, or he did not try to take some type of a debate on that. He was not for that. Simply, as they saying, the caravan may pass, the dogs will bark and the caravan will pass, will go. So Prabhupada's mission was going on, just like in Madras. Prabhupada went to Madras at that time also, some of his disciples. There also the Gaudiya Math is there. And the responsible for the Gaudiya Math in Madras, he wrote a letter criticizing Srila Prabhupada's white elephant. Why did he bring all these white dancing elephants? Making a joke out of that. Not considering the seriousness of Prabhupada's mission, that Prithivitea Cheyat Nagara Digram Sarvatra Prashad Morna. Never considering properly what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to spread the Hare Krishna movement everywhere on the planet. They were thinking these words from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are just some exaggeration, some poetic utterance. So they had failed also, of course. The whole story is known that Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had sent some of his senior sannyasis to England and Germany, but they could not do anything substantial except holding a few meetings with some intellectuals, some VIPs. But they could not change the lives of people there, and they came back without any disciple, practically speaking. So in this way, the Srila Prabhupada became the target of some envious godbrothers. But he told us not to take revenge or try to argue against. Let it be like that. In course of time, everybody will be able to understand. So much opposition was even in Mayapur in order to secure land and establish our temple in Mayapur. A lot of opposition was there. But by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the previous acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the mission of Srila Prabhupada was gradually unfolding, and everybody became convinced that this is the Srila Prabhupada's mission is successful. Any other questions or comments? Srimad Bhagavatham ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.